Have you guys ever wanted to just like test out a lens before you buy it, see what it can do, see if it's even worth spending as much money as it costs? So that's what we're gonna do today. I actually got my hands on the Sony 85mm 1.4 G Master lens. So we're gonna take this thing around this weekend and just kind of see what we can get for photography, video, B-roll. And then also my friend Paul Feinberg is gonna be coming up this weekend to Minnesota. So we're gonna kind of just show him the spots in Minnesota that are really fun to go to. And this is the only lens I'm gonna use for this whole weekend. With exception if there's any kind of side-by-side comparisons or something like that. But this is the only lens I'm going to keep on this camera. I also want to put out a special thanks for Cuts Clothing for making this video possible. More on that later. So the 85mm Sony lens is always one that I've been really curious about. It's a great focal length for like product showcasing, B-roll, and from what I hear, this is a very good portrait lens for photography. With that 1.4 aperture, it has really good bokeh in the background, so you can get some really blurry shots and separation from your background. Yeah, we just want to take this thing around and just see how well it works with all those things and kind of just see if it's a lens that I do eventually want to buy. One thing I want to say right off the bat though is this thing is a very big, heavy lens. It feels a lot like my Sigma 24-70. It's got some serious weight to it. But in the long run, when you're doing stuff like B-roll shots where you're wanting to be really smooth and steady, like having a heavy lens isn't a bad thing. In fact, it actually helps you get more stability to the camera. Now the little I got to use this lens so far, it seems like this manual focus ring is actually really nice. It's really easy to use. It's not terribly touchy. So I'm really excited about that. It does have the aperture dial too that you can click or declick with the switch, which is nice. I personally like to leave mine in auto and then just control everything with my back wheel instead. But for some people, photography, they just want to turn that aperture on the lens, and that's something those people do. I just don't do it myself. So this thing's a very well built lens. It's definitely a solid G Master lens. It has incredibly good autofocus. I don't know if it has a lot of focus breathing. We'll see if that's a thing that happens with it. The one thing that I did notice though is that it does have like a 3-foot minimum focus distance, which kind of makes me wonder how well that B-roll shots are going to be when you have to be 3 feet away from things. Or it's something like the 90mm macro lens be something I'm actually looking for in a B-roll lens. So my plan is to take this thing out to like the Stone Arch Bridge in Minneapolis. I think we're gonna go to the zoo later. I'm planning on going like the Mall of America and a candy store and a bunch of different things. So I don't know where we're gonna bring the lens exactly. But we're gonna go shoot some fun stuff with this thing today and just see how well it works. So let's get into it. All right, so we did take this lens to a couple other different places, but before we get to that, I'd like to thank today's sponsor of the video, and that's Cuts Clothing. And if you guys haven't figured it out by now, that's all I pretty much wear anymore. Cuts Clothing is like literally the most comfortable shirts I've ever worn. I haven't had to replace any. Like granted, yeah, I've like picked up like 20 different shirts in different colors, but honestly, I just haven't had to replace any of these shirts because they haven't shrunk, they haven't been wrinkly, they haven't really been like crappy shirts that you normally buy at like cheap places. So anyways, Cuts did send me a couple shirts for the summer. Let's see what they sent me. Looks like we got this cool like Pima cotton shirt in sage. This thing is gonna be like awesome for like really warm weather, made in Peru. And then we got this like cool sleeveless tie-dye, which is gonna be like awesome for festivals. Can't wait to wear that. And then they also have brand new swim trunks, you guys, which are not like too short, but they're definitely not like down to the knee like those surfer trunks. These things look like they're gonna be really comfortable. So if you guys haven't checked out Cuts Clothing, go check them out. If you use my code Kyle Watts, or even go check out the link below, you can save 15% as well. And if you haven't checked it out too, Cuts Clothing did just release a women's line. So there's like new shirts and stuff for women's, and I'm sure there'll be a lot more stuff coming out in the future. So go check that out, you guys, and thank you Cuts for sponsoring the video. All right, so we're about halfway through the weekend. We got a couple more places to go. So far, I'm actually really liking this lens quite a bit. It's something that when I had it on the camera, I felt like it was a little limiting at times, where I was like, I need to step back further to get the shot. But then when I got home and I started actually editing some of the stuff, I'm just like blown away how awesome this lens and this focal range really is. Anyways, there was 2 other places that we brought this lens to this weekend. One of them was this like 1800s town called The Landing. There just so happened to be this cool like Civil War reenactment going on, so clearly that's going to be the focus of this part with the photos and the video. And then we did go to the Minnesota Zoo, just kind of brought it along and shot like I would if I was just like a regular, dad shooting stuff at the zoo. So let's go check those out. Some of you might ask, can you vlog on this 85mm lens? Paul, what do you think?
No.
Yeah,
no, not at all.
You're almost a little far away. I'm full arm stretched, and like, oh, there, maybe we're in focus now. Yeah, still not a vlog lens, sorry. All right, so that's my weekend shooting with this lens. I definitely want to say my overall opinion with this thing for sure is that for portraits, this lens is awesome. So if you're like a portrait photographer, I would highly, highly recommend getting an 85mm lens. If it's not this one, maybe the 1.8 is a good alternative, because this one is kind of pricey. So as far as video is concerned, if you're within like 5 feet of a subject, I would probably recommend getting like the 90mm macro lens instead. But if you're past that 5 feet range, this thing is just an awesome lens. For video, you get like a really cinematic kind of look, like a movie production look to it. You get really good compression in the background behind your subjects. And that 1.4 aperture, that thing gets some just crazy blurry background if you want it to. So I thought the weight of the lens was gonna bother me, but really it didn't at all. In fact, it just helped having a heavier setup keep stuff more stable. So definitely the 85mm focal range is a lens that I really want. I do want to check out that 1.8 aperture version that Sony has, which is like $500 instead of $2,000. I'm sure that the G Master is definitely a better lens, but I mean, who knows? Let's check that one out in the future. Also, I'd like to thank Paul and Chelsea for coming up to Minnesota and hanging out with us and doing some cool photography this weekend. If you guys liked this video or you found it entertaining, hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you want to follow along to more videos like this one. And as always, you guys, we'll catch you on the next one. Later.